welcome back. I'm glad you both decided to meet with me individually. Now we're back together to work to really get things worked out. And I thank you for that and your willingness to continue. I I do believe that an agreement can be reached, and I commend you for your effort. And I know this has been difficult and emotional for you all, but let's see what we can do. Okay. All right, John, I started with Chris last time, so what would you like to say? What have you learned?
Well, we had our caucus with you, and then Holly and I went out and talked a little bit. I don't know, we've been thinking about some of the things that you said in your opening statement, considering some of the things that we discussed in our individual caucus. And so, one of the things I really think maybe I have been remiss in dealing with directly is you talk about competition and how it affects sales and so forth. So, is there anything you could share with me? Tell me about this competition you keep talking about. I know you've mentioned it before, but I've never really discussed it. What is it? What's going on? How's it affecting your sales? Just tell me. I mean, I'm listening and I'm all ears.
So I'm glad you asked. It's a new company that's moved into my area. And as you know, we deal in plastics, so it's kind of a ferocious competition between the people. But they're coming in and offering a new product similar to ours, a little better, a little less price than what we're charging for ours. So they're coming in trying to undercut us with our existing customers already. And I've had quite a few talks with people that we've had on the account for years. And all what they want out of us is something better, or a reason to stick with us for the price that we charge. What differentiates our product quality from this new guy coming into town? So to combat that, I've been spending a lot of time out of town to assure them and show them that I'm there for them, that there's a reason we charge more, that they've got their personal interaction with somebody like me instead of a sales rep that's coming out of this new company that stops by once a month, trying to get new business out of them or checking up on them. And I think that's where we differentiate from them is we care. But these guys are being ruthless right now. They're trying to get us out of that territory. And so I'm working 6 days a week, 12, 15 hours a day, just trying to keep our existing clients without getting new ones because I don't have time to go get new ones. So that's where they're coming in. And them being in the same area and us having to travel is not helping out as well. They're already there, so they can come by any day of the week, and just visit these businesses and say, hey, I'm right here, I'm right next door, here's my stuff. So that's where I'm at on that. I don't know what your feelings about that would be, or how you think you could help make it different, easier for us to hold on to these people, because that's what's driving my sales down, is not being able to bring in new business by trying to have to just keep this old business that we already have.
Interesting, because I really haven't heard this before.
And that does follow me a little bit, but as much as I'm working and the stress that it's causing me, it's hard to communicate these things. I mean, I just honestly, I don't have the time. I don't sleep half the time. So I'm busy working, trying to figure out numbers and get all this stuff to take care of the customer. So I don't have time to talk to you and Henry as much as I probably should. But you guys don't come out here and try to see me or help me work through this and actually see what's causing the problem. So, I mean, I guess we could both work on a little bit of different things, but yeah, I could probably be more forthcoming in the reasons that I'm having problems trying to get new business in.
Okay. Let me think about that a little bit.
Chris, earlier today you mentioned that you were having some personal challenges with your sleep and health. Do you mind expanding and explaining that a little bit more?
Kind of what I was just telling John there is I don't have time to sleep. I mean, with the amount of work and time to put in to try to keep these existing accounts, it doesn't allow for downtime. I guess you could say. So I'm working 15 hours a day out driving around talking to these clients, but then I go back to my hotel room and I'm crunching numbers and going over the product stats. And next thing you know, it's time to go back out on the road again and start working with all these people. So staying awake that long and barely eating, probably not the best for my health.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want this company to fall under because of something I'm not doing.
What about the budget? You see the importance of where.
I understand the
Right.
budget. I really do. But, you guys got to look at what I'm trying to do for the company and having to spend so much time out here. I either need a bigger budget or I need to be situated here in the city, in this area, to be able to cut down on cost and accommodate the customers that we have now. I know some of you other guys don't have to travel as much because you don't have competition directly in that area. So I don't think it's asking a lot if you could move budgets around. I guess I should have probably come to you sooner with that. But if you expect me to keep up sales and bring in new sales, I'm definitely going to need the travel budget put in there.
But do you see the for looking at challenges that I have, do you see the need that I have to know what your budget's going to be, aside from what your budget should be or should not be, knowing that you're going to go over budget or not going over budget without first making arrangements to have money moved over? Do you understand why?
I could see where it could cause a problem. Yeah.
Also, all the more reason to work on updating the business model. Just hearing from my client and hearing you guys speak is rather a company that's been around for a long time. That just sounds evident, and Chris has expressed that quite often.
Hey, we've talked about the needs that each of you have. Now, Chris, what are you willing to offer John? So you can stay at the business and the business can be successful.
I guess you could look at it this way. I could definitely give you guys more heads up if I need time off, as far as dealing with problems of not sleeping, not eating. Definitely would be more available as far as answering phone calls and coming to meetings. Just know that those meetings I would need advance notice when you're going to schedule them. Could be a last minute meeting, especially if I'm out of town trying to land some new sales. It's impossible to make it back to be at those meetings. But you understand your need for me being there, just because hey, I'm out there doing the work. I got to be able to come in and speak to it to keep potential new clients wanting to come into the company.
Well, the rub's always has been on the schedule part because we all take days off here and there.
Yeah.
And once again, I was listening to your open statement, and when I ask you to let me know when you're not going to be there, I'm not asking you to call and ask permission. That's not what that's about. But I schedule meetings, and you've been there. I schedule meetings. I call the staff in the room, and you don't show up. It's embarrassing. But aside from the business aspect of it, the people that work for us begin to look at the leadership, and you're part of the leadership. And I said, do these guys not know what's going on? he can't even schedule a meeting. He doesn't even know when his own brother, let alone his, company officer is going to be present. So, a lot of it's not that I'm asking your permission or asking you to ask me for permission. It's I need to know to be able to run the business. That's what it's about.
It's understandable. I get where you're coming from on that. There are times that I know in advance, that I'm not going to be there, and there's times that I wake up that morning and I just can't function for the day. So it's not like I'm purposely not showing up. It's the condition that I'm going through right now. It just doesn't allow. Sometimes it allows for advance notice. Sometimes it hits you at the last minute. So I mean, I will do my best to let you know ahead of time. And if you have something on the schedule, I can make preparations hopefully ahead of time to take care of whatever problems I have and be at the meeting still. So that's a road that I think I can meet you on as far as being able to show up when you need me there and what you need from me.
Okay, so let me. Holly talked to me before I came back in, and once again, he explained a little bit about ADA. So, with the conversation on the schedule, but as it relates to the schedule and an accommodation, what does that look like? What exactly are you asking for? What is it you need from us to say we have accommodated you?
So I'm not asking for outlandish requests. I'm not asking for a week off here or a whole month off there. Maybe one extra day a week, depending on how the rest of my week goes as far as how stressful the week has been. That's what really triggers the anxiety that I have. It's been an easy week. I'll be there all 7 days of the week if I need to be.
Okay, so you said you, if I heard you right, you said you couldn't really predict sometimes when the anxiety hits, and so you'll try to be there when you can. But if we were able to accommodate, let's say we were able to pick a day, a Monday or a Friday, and say, okay, this is your, for lack of a better term, your flex day. So if you're running short of sleep, it's okay for you to take that day and get your sleep. And then I can count on you the rest of the time. I mean, so you understand, I'm trying to understand, because you did say.
Yeah. No, you've got it pretty much nailed down there. As long as I have that flexible day in there, there's times I probably won't even need it. But if it's there, if I know it's there and I need it, I can kind of work around it and be able to use it just that one day.
And more formally take advantage of those days as opposed to as much as you can control.
And I can tell you ahead of time, hey, I'm going to take this Monday off, or I'm going to take this Friday off. But that way heads off that week and be able to try to schedule around it or let me know if there's something that's going on important that day that I need to take off.
Okay, so what is that? 1 day a week? Is that
1 day a week. That's all.
1 day a week? Is there a Monday or Friday? Which day works better for you?
Probably a Friday, but I mean, whatever works best for the business. I mean, I'm assuming we conduct more business on a Monday than we do on a Friday as far as meetings and stuff like that going on.
So, if we agree we got a flex day on a Friday, then I won't schedule any major company meetings on a Friday. And then we don't run the risk of, being surprised whether you're there or not there, but then we don't count on it. So it gives you flex. Would that serve the accommodation? Does that
work?
Because you two need to say it serves accommodation.
Yes, it does.
Absolutely.
Works for me.
Okay, on the
I just want to say one quick thing, and that's great. We also need to make sure we address the fact that Chris he's been accused of being an alcoholic when it's been coming out that apparently is not the case. So, Chris, this is your show, so to speak, but I want to make sure that since you expressed that was one of your concerns, that you definitely heard about that.
I mean, yeah, it's floating around the company from what I hear. Have you or Henry ever personally seen any of that out of me or heard me personally disparaging the company in front of other people?
No, that was reported within the company. I know several people have gone to Holly they, and it really, correct me if I'm wrong, but they really weren't complaining. They were expressing a concern for you that this is what they had seen and you know, strange behavior and stuff like that. And you know, that's really how it came up, because normally if it was a complaint, she would have just dealt with it and gone straight to you.
Well, I think that's where it was mishandled because they got around the company that I was an alcoholic before it ever came to me. And so that's the impression everybody has of me now. And so I don't think it was dealt with right correctly, and I don't really appreciate that part of it. Something needs to be addressed with the company about that as far as
So
coming
Correct.
back.
And Holly, so the fact is that Chris is not an alcoholic. He is an associate that has a disability, although that should not be disclosed.
Right.
But that gives you a little bit more, I won't say ammunition, but it gives you more information that way. If someone does come to you with a concern, we know it doesn't go in the alcoholic bucket because he is not an alcoholic.
Let me interject here. Chris, would you feel comfortable, or would you want to be able to show at the business in the offices where they work? Would you like to really show them? Would it be important for you to show how you really work in your character? Would you like them to be able to see that for a time? Would that help?
If you're referring to spending more time in the office instead of out on the road a lot, yeah, I would appreciate that and learn how to run more of the office side of the business along with Henry and John. And then people could possibly get a better impression of me. They're actually in the company, in the office all the time instead of just seeing me at company events or knowing I'm out on the road.
And this would benefit you both, maybe.
I think it would help me develop a better relationship with John and Henry, and I could be more open and talk to them as far as what's going on when I'm on the road and learning how to run the business with John in case something ever happens to Henry or he retires. I think it would be a better process down the road as far as being able to spend more time in the office.
well, let me ask you this. One of the things that we have been talking about in the budget committee and really around the business model, in large part, is we've been looking at the sales districts and the division of work and that sort of stuff. So, what would you think? We have a group actually that's going to meet in about 3 weeks, and they're going to start looking at how the sales are divided. So, what if you were part of that group and we more equitably distribute sales
That
to
would be
districts? So then your district might have less, and somebody else might have more that has less than you now, which would give you a chance to spend more time in the office and might address some other issues as well.
I would believe that'd be beneficial to myself and the company, just because if you split my district, there's 2 salespeople in that area to cover more ground and actually gain more customers. And take some of these other guys that aren't busy, like you said, and let them learn what it's like to work in a really busy area and deal with the competition, trying to get more sales in. So not only does that help me develop, helps them develop, which could, turn it back into the time that we ran a whole 35% increase in sales.
Right.
We'll get back to where we used to be. The other thing I think should be worked on in that committee would be the breakdown of sales bonuses. Like, it should be equal for everybody, not where it is now, where your bonus is higher than mine for some reason. So I would think the busier guys should get a bigger percentage of the sales bonus compared to the less.
Okay, so I'm not opposed to that being brought up as a topic of discussion, or are you okay with that being a topic of discussion that the group makes a presentation to Henry with, and then
Yeah.
you'll be on the group, and whatever the group decides as a recommendation to go forward to Henry, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, that's totally doable. That's probably the best way to approach it. Actually, is getting a group mentality around it of the salespeople, so they know.
Well, there are different levels, and I would not want to leave the other people involved in sales out, and if their sales percentages change, I would definitely want them all to feel a part of it, especially if some went down. At least they would they were part of a process that you were part of. But that would be okay with.
Yeah, that would definitely be okay.
Okay.
I think the other thing I'd like to see out of you and Henry is either you or him or both of y'all come check out my territory, work it with me, or work it yourselves just to see how rough this competition is over there compared to what you guys are used to, just to get a better feel of what we need to do to better the company in that area, what maybe we need to do to adjust for better product or better pricing, or just could be as simple as offering a guarantee to our customers that our product will outlast the competition, and that's why they're paying a higher premium for what they're getting instead of paying cheaper prices for something that's not going to be guaranteed.
Okay. But I've been thinking about it. I asked you the question about the competition, and I've been sitting here thinking about what we could do about that, because it's not, the sales piece is a little more complex than just reduction of sales. And, there's a competitor. Another complexity there is why we don't know about it. You're telling me how difficult it is, and you're having to work all these hours, but that doesn't help me know why the company internally, why that wasn't on our radar and we weren't preparing for it, or in some way the company supporting you. So what if we put together a group in the finance, and we take a look at the entire competitive market model that we have internally for identifying competition and how we collectively deal with it, rather than just try to deal with it off the fly. Let's take a little deeper look at why we didn't know, first of all, and then what's the most effective way to deal with it. Is it trying to keep customers on board and get them to see the value in our product? Is that the best approach, or is there some other approach that might keep the customers on board? Maybe we need to look at pricing schemes differently, so that we can match price and in some way, make up for that loss in revenue, so that we can compete head to head. I don't know which strategy would be best, but
We should definitely have like an investigative committee out there, seeing that these guys are building their business where we are, and that way we can jump on it ahead of time instead of what I'm having to do and react to them just popping up out of nowhere because we didn't know they were there, and trying to keep these sales and gain new sales in the same area. So I think a group or a committee would be a good idea as far as looking into these up and coming companies that could possibly cause us these kind of problems.
okay, what I would ask of you, if we put this group together, I'd like you to come and make a pitch to the group. Let them know how difficult it's been for you, and show them, data and everything else. And I'll support your presentation, and then we'll go wherever the data says is appropriate to go. If that, because I'm relying on what the data say.
Yep.
So would that solve that part? Because
I believe that would take care of it. And that would cause somebody not to have to go through the same issues I'm going through, as far as being driven by anxiety and dealing with something retroactively instead of being proactive and getting out ahead of it. I think would be a good idea and help a lot.
And how are we going to deal with the budget issue?
As far as the travel budget,
Yeah,
I mean,
how do you propose that we,
we can move around some of the other guys' travel budgets that aren't spending it all the time for the time being until we can split up the areas more evenly. I think would probably be the best solution because you're just leaving money sitting in their accounts where I'm overspending money in my account. So, like, how much time would you say you probably actually go out and travel your area? How much of your budget do you actually spend? Would be the question you could ask yourself, ask to the other sales guys.
I think Chris was trying to say an evaluation of the pricing scheme.
Just more of an evaluation of what they're spending day to day on their road trips. So as far as traveling their area, I think would be a better look at it.
okay, I can do that. I will have finance take a look at that. What I would ask of you is what can you do to help us know where your budget is, or for you
Yeah,
to stay in budget until we're able to address the issue.
I can turn in weekly reports to you guys as to what I'm spending as far as travel and hotel and food while I'm trying to keep my area going. That way, every week you know where I'm at,
Okay,
where my budget is. If I still need extra by the end of the month, maybe we can look at moving some from somewhere else. But it's not going to just put you guys in the backside. You don't know where it came from, you know.
okay,
That way, you guys have a heads up of what's going on. I think would be probably the best route.
okay. So, what do you two need for,
Well, I also, just in speaking for Chris, if I may, just for a moment, want to make sure that he receives a formal apology. Um, Again, with a lot of the issues that he's gone through, there should be some expression of deep empathy, I would think. Chris, I'll let you elaborate on that, but I do want to make sure because I know you mentioned that at least you have the opportunity, if that's so important to you, to raise it.
I guess an apology could be there, but it's more of everybody in the company realizing I don't have an alcohol problem. I think that's the big issue because it should have been taken care of behind closed doors instead of making its way through the entire company. That's how I found out about it. I didn't hear from anybody, you or Henry. It's people talking about it in the hallways when I come through the office when I have time. So that would be a concern. It could be fixed, I would say. Yeah. It's about all I got for that one. I don't want it to happen to anybody else.
right? I'd have to put some thought into how you put that genie back in the bottle once the rumors out that sometimes the cure is worse than the illness. At some point, you just have to either let it go, or if you have ideas about that, I'm willing to listen. But you mentioned the apology. Obviously, we're here, and this isn't a good thing. So there's I think in this process, I've gotten an appreciation that you had some issues. If you wanted me to know what those issues were, you would have shared them with me. You didn't. So, but they're your issues to have and your issues to keep. I don't have a right to know what those issues are. But what I do have a right to know is, in a sense, is what's going on with you in the business. So, I would almost jump out and say, well, how about an apology for the fact that we don't know the competition is there. The fact that I didn't know that you're having these personal problems. I tried to talk to you a couple times, and I'm not going to throw all the blame on you, but I have my own culpability. But at the same time, in large part, I think we're here because we're not talking. When you and I, when we were clicking and sales were going up, you and I were talking all the time, and all of a sudden we're not. So I don't know what that apology, and I take to heart what you just said. I don't know what that would look like because we're here. There's a complaint filed against the company. You know, there's some distasteful feelings, I think, out there that are going to take time to heal, which is okay. You know, we resolve this and things go forward and we make progress. But it's something that needs to be said. You know, there's distasteful feelings on both sides. I'm not even going to venture to say how we got here. Did we stop talking or did you stop talking? But
Yeah, you know, it's a two-way door, but it's probably more me falling into myself. Just with the issues I have going on. So that part is on me. So I would apologize to you and Henry about that.
you know, and Henry and I both may have underestimated the fact that, you know, you were going through some anxiety and, you know, we looked at it as an excuse, you know, our bad or however you want to look at that. But I just wanted to get, you broached the subject, so I needed to get that out there, get it on the table. You know, there's feelings all around.
Definitely.
So what else do you need from us?
Well, you did bring up, John, the complaint, and so Holly, so that you're well aware, Chris doesn't have to give up his right of filing that complaint if the company is not going to agree to this settlement or, agreement.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I would strongly recommend is that, you know, before any future issues surface up, that we go through another mediation session like we went through today before filing anything, just because a lot of it had to do, you know, what we learned today with miscommunication. So,
Okay. So what am I hearing in turn? What are you asking us in terms of that?
we would like the complaint withdrawn as a non-disclosure agreement. And then, because we're not going to agree to settle without some assurance from the parties that in the future, that they'll work to resolve issues through mediation before filing suit.
As far as I'm aware, Chris is fine with that, as long as you all are complying with the agreement.
Yes.
What about the timetable on that? So what do you mean exactly? So as long as the company's in agreement, we're fine with not filing suit. And then going forward, you mentioned something about mediation. So I just want to make sure.
Well, I can tell you, what I told her. I don't want to sign a piece of paper.
Okay.
And then we get to talking, you know, then later on you get to reading it and say, well, this says this, and I say, no, it doesn't say that, and then we end up with another complaint. I'd rather end up in mediation to resolve what the language says, and that we reach an impasse to mediation before you guys go out and file something else. I see no utility in signing a paper, but
Fair enough.
you know, that would be.
Yeah, all paperwork, emails, or other forms of communication regarding this matter destroyed, because just to avoid any leakage in the future.
Maybe that's something we can do.
Because I don't want something leaking out later and then just embarrasses the company.
That makes sense.
That's not a road I want to go down either, personally.
You might not leak it.
I know, but I'm just saying I don't want that to happen to the company.
Okay. Then we'll withdraw the termination, proposal to terminate. And what else do you need from us?
I think that about covers it. I mean, we've got the meetings and the committee set up, and me working with you guys closer and dividing up the sales territory, I think will help a lot. And then the flex day in there was the main issue. So I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything that I need.
Holly, do you need anything else?
Great, well done. So we've talked about your concerns, your needs, to be able to work with each other, and what it's going to take to get there. And you both have graciously come forward in this process, and we're willing to compromise. So I'm going to go over what some of the things in the negotiation are, and we'll get this settled. You guys did a great job. I'm very proud you got to this point. Okay, so some of the negotiations. On Chris's part, the Monday and Friday, having a flexible day to work that you would give in advance if you knew you needed. Right? And you agreed to weekly reports and communication to the company.
So will you draw up an agreement? How is this going to work? We're going to draw, two attorneys going to draw up an agreement, or do you draw up a MOU, or how are we going to do this?
Yes, I think I'll draw up the memorandum of understanding, and it'll have all these terms on there, and then I'll send it to the lawyers, and then you'll sign, and then they'll have for you to sign. They'll review it, and if there's any concerns, of course, you can address me again in the future. Okay, so let's finish with some of the negotiations. So you've agreed that Chris can spend more time in the office. He wants to learn about the business, and you've agreed to that. And there's going to be a withdrawal of termination and a withdrawal of the formal complaint. And you guys wanted him to agree, before this were to happen again, to come to this point, that there would be mediation again. Did I leave anything out of
I don't believe
any negotiation? Okay. Well, great job and well done. Congratulations on your agreement. I had confidence that you would be able to come to this point. So well done, Chris and John, and thank you. And if you need me in the future, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.